time to enter the K-hole with America's least coherent podcast, The Pod People.
That's coherent with a K.
I'm one tease, two tease, red tease, blue tease.
Oh man, with context, that's really funny.
I know.
I'm Ben Sheets, and, a few episodes ago I said some very insensitive things about the Finnish people, and I just want to apologize for absolutely nothing! Finnish people come at me. You know what? You're probably the lowest tier of Scandinavians.
You're finished.
You have the worst black metal of all the Scandinavians.
How about that? We've had this conversation.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
They're no Norway or Sweden. Let's get real
All
here.
right.
Hey.
Who are you?
Doppelgang, 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 doppelgang. Hey, it's me, Cleveland Mosher.
Oh, man. Well,
How's that for a 2013 reference?
That song came out later than 2013, didn't it?
It's around that time.
2016.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years. Yeah, what is it?
But it's
Same era.
aged about as well. Well, this week is a Patreon pick, and this film was picked for us by one of our honorary pod boys, Zach. Zach has picked a 2013 film called Coherence that I had never fucking even heard of before this.
I'd seen it.
Ben had seen it. It was new to me in Cleveland, and I'm not 100% convinced that Zach didn't pick this as a prank. Because I feel like this is going to be one of the most difficult films to talk about coherently, pun intended, that we've ever done on the podcast.
I'm kind of excited about it.
I would say that we just don't try to keep the narrative straight at all. I think that's going to be a bad time for us and a bad listen for
the movie
for the people.
Hardly does, so I think that's allowed. I think that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
The whole movie's about things getting out of whack.
I was able to follow what was happening.
Yeah, because it's pretty simple.
Because it's much more straightforward than it makes itself out to believe, but I feel like it's very difficult to describe in a way that makes sense.
Well, if you describe the events of the movie from front to back,
yeah,
like
it doesn't make
work.
any,
but
doesn't
it
make
is
any
very
sense.
easy to describe what happens in this movie.
Sure. Well, this film was written and directed by James Ward Burkett, and I was curious, who is this guy? So I was looking at what he's done before. He hasn't directed a whole lot, but
that's okay. Neither have I.
He did in addition to this, he did write the story for Rango.
Underrated movie.
And he wrote and directed the Rango video game for the Nintendo Wii.
Hell yeah.
I haven't played it. So
I have not
can't
either.
Speak on it.
But he also, some of his other credits, he was a co-producer on The Forest, which is an absolutely dog shit movie that came out in 2016.
Damn, all right. That bad.
He was a storyboard artist on Baby Driver. And also Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Storyboard artist on both of those movies. Also,
Davy Jones's face.
Consultant on Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. What kind of consultant? I don't know. What qualifies him as a consultant for a pirate movie?
I don't know.
I'd like to find out.
So he was a consultant on the first one, and then in the other
and then a
ones,
storyboard artist for two of the others, but not all of them. And then also wrote and directed Rango for the Nintendo Wii.
This guy's career isn't coherent, which I kind of respect, honestly.
Correct.
Like, it sounds like he's bouncing around, he's finding his truth, and I'm with it. You said Rango's good, right? So
The movie
Yeah,
is.
no,
Rango's great.
He just wrote the story. I don't think he did the final script, but
well, I haven't seen Rango, but wasn't it originally like just a movie that they shot?
It was originally supposed to be live action, and they shot a good chunk of it live action. I don't remember why they decided to pivot to animation.
Yeah.
Kind of glad they did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, in animation, like, your best work is usually referenced from some sort of video footage, whether it's, like, rotoscoped or just, like, again, like, you're just studying the movement or, digitally mapping it or whatever. Like, there's usually pulling from life is your best bet. So it makes sense.
Anyway, I feel like we're trying to avoid talking about Coherence.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
Well, this is a sci-fi thriller of sorts, in the vein of something like a Primer, where it's very time
I haven't heard of
travel.
a Primer.
You don't know Primer?
I know Primer. I was making a joke.
He's being obtuse.
I'm being a shit.
Yeah, fuck you, bitch.
I said I haven't heard of a Primer, but anyway, all right. Moving on. You were saying.
One of those type of movies. Yeah. There's plenty of those type of movies. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
cerebral, quote unquote, cerebral, low budget, talky sci-fi thriller with lots of exposition.
Tends to be a genre I like. I
tend
to support the genre.
I've never seen Primer. I've heard it's very hard to follow.
I haven't seen Primer or a Primer.
Shut the fuck up, Cleveland.
I won't. It's a podcast.
I'm getting legitimately pissed.
I have to talk.
I said a Primer because it's a great example of this type of movie.
Yeah, it's like a Primer. I know. I was just having... I'm not making fun of you. I was just having fun. We're good. We can carry on. This is starting to feel pretty incoherent.
Yeah, so, great start.
Yeah, so this movie, plays around with time. It's a very low budget movie. It's very single location.
I would describe
this house and the outside around it.
I would describe it as mumblecore, even.
Yes. Especially in the opening 20 or 30 minutes, there's a ton of overlapping dialogue.
Yes, lots of trademarks of classic mumblecore cinema going in this one. Like you said, lots of overlapping dialogue. A lot of it's probably heavily improvised, I would bet. It looks like mostly only natural lights, like in-set lights, for the most part. Not great audio quality. All of the hallmarks of, we're just trying to focus on an interesting story with compelling characters. The presentation is not what's important. I don't know how successful the movie is at that.
Well, the characters are...
That's the big issue with it, is that the characters suck.
They're rough. Yeah.
I like mumblecore. Ben and I took a class on mumblecore in college, and I really liked that class. Watched a lot of good movies. Computer chess, color wheel.
We're being very vague about this movie. The concept is a comet is going overhead the night of a dinner party, and as the comet goes across, turns out that multiple realities kind of converge upon themselves.
It's causing quantum detanglement. So basically, like, the house is split in this small zone of any number of realities, is what we eventually find out over the course of the movie. That's what we're kind of clumsily delivered to us through really blatant exposition. Like, the guy just happens to have a brother in it who has a book that happens to be in his car, and it's like, who's able to perfectly explain the whole thing, this miscellaneous event. I think this movie would have benefited from being more vague, and not being so, like, direct in its exposition. And also, I think if you're gonna have a film, sorry, I'm just gonna get my thoughts out there real quick. If you're gonna have a film about doppelgangers and alternate realities and such, with insufferable characters, you have a great opportunity to, like, torture and kill off these insufferable characters. But we don't get that either. We just the only person
it's all just
like was me.
It's all just like mostly interpersonal drama.
Yeah, and frankly too, it's pretty base drama too. It's literally like I saw her in the hallway with him. Like it's literally like a line from the film.
I felt this way the first time I saw it. I was looking back on my Letterboxd. I gave it a 3 the first time, and I think over the course of seeing it a second time, I've come to appreciate some of the narrative stuff a little bit more. I think the ping pong paddle being used as kind of a symbol in the first box in the movie is a great representation of this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's like very much a ping-ponging narrative. You know, you take narrative elements that happen later in the movie and you shove hints of them earlier.
And the characters themselves are literally ping-ponging between all of these different quantum realities.
And I think a lot of that is pretty clever and pretty, you know, interestingly done. I do agree that the characters
that is
suck,
the biggest problem that this movie has, because I agree with you. I think conceptually this movie's pretty interesting. I think a really good movie can be made out of this same premise using a number of like the narrative beats that this movie does, but especially for a movie where there's minimal violence or anything that you would call action. All of the tension is coming or supposed to come from the mystery unraveling and how the characters react to that and how they relate to one another and the tensions that come up there. Gotta have interesting characters. You gotta have at least a couple of characters that I don't fucking loathe. I hate every single character in this movie, and for a good chunk of the movie I thought I was supposed to. For like the first half of the movie I was like, this is like very on the nose. They're like, they live in California, they're all like different brand of insufferable white California yuppie. Every single one of them is. And I thought that it was like satire.
Yeah, it was set up for a payoff.
That there was going to be, that they were going to get, the characters were going to get like some sort of comeuppance that relates to each of their individual insufferable traits. But that doesn't really happen, and by the end of the movie I'm like, oh, I don't think those characters are supposed to be intentionally unlikable. I think they're just actually unlikable characters.
Fortunately for us, there is a movie out there that is also about a quantum destabilization event where we're forced to like meet and interact with all these different characters before the quantum realm is closed. And we're able to get through all of that. It's a really good movie with like really compelling characters. It's called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And it already, thankfully it exists. Like,
I thought you were going to make a big pitch for the new
the
Ant-Man
quantum thing.
movie.
I know, yeah, I started to, but yeah, that metaphor also.
Quantum
Also, the new Spider-Man
yeah.
wasn't really that good.
The Spider-Verse?
Oh, Into the Spider-Verse was.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the other.
No, because like Spider-Verse,
multiverse, adjacent.
There's a quantum
Spider-Man
destabilization. All the realities are colliding, and they have to like either help or thwart each other and help the reality close. And
in fairness to Ben, that also describes the most recent live-action Spider-Man movie, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't either, but remember they're bringing back all the different Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and all the villains and shit.
Yeah. And also, I guess, I don't know, Quantum Mania has anything to do with that. I don't really care to know.
Okay.
We can move on. I'm gonna
attempt to very simply and briefly break down each of the characters so we can easily refer to them throughout the rest of the podcast.
Go on.
And I don't remember their names. We're using descriptors. 1, we've got Blonde. She is a comet expert and the protagonist.
Ballerina.
And a ballerina.
Yeah, that
professional
doesn't really,
ballerina.
That doesn't really have a purpose.
Professional ballerina, comet hot. Well, she's
the hot one.
She's hot. Yeah,
she's the hot one. She's the she's the protagonist.
Comet hobbyist.
Yeah,
for some reason. Convenience for the
plot.
So
blonde comet hobbyist protagonist. Chin. That is that's her boyfriend.
Oh, I thought it was her boyfriend's previous lover, because she also has a huge chin.
No, that's Red Dress. I'll get to her. Okay. So we've got Blonde, then we've got Chin. Chin is the boyfriend.
All right.
Then we have Red Dress, who is Chin's ex-girlfriend, and she's also a bitch. Then we've got...
glasses.
We've got glasses. She goes and takes a nap for a good chunk of the movie.
We've blue glasses.
Yeah. We've got Vest. He's an actor and he's married to glasses.
Roswell.
Yeah. He and a drinking problem. We've got...
Well, no, he's sober, but he was worried that a different version of him was drinking.
Well, and then he starts drinking and
that's the thing. Yeah. That's worrying other people, because they're like, he doesn't normally drink, and now he's drinking. I'm worried about what he'll do.
Yeah. So Vest, douchey actor with a drinking problem. Then we've got Hippie, who brings over ketamine for the party and is all concerned about feng shui and shit. She's one of the most annoying ones. Yeah. Then we've got Beard, who is her husband, who has the exposition brother.
Probably the most tolerable character, but the exposition part is pretty intolerable.
Beard has exposition brother. And then
I like that actor's charisma, at least.
Then there is V-Neck. He is in the movie.
It looks like John Benjamin a little bit.
Kinda. Scrawnier. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think that's all of our characters. I don't know if that really did make it much easier, but...
This movie has, like, script written in a coffee shop kind of vibes to me.
Yeah, I feel...
And... I think, you know, what sort of comes with that is that mentality of like, oh, you gotta write a little bit of yourself into each of your characters. I don't want to meet the person who wrote all these characters.
Well,
I don't know. Because at first it came across as self-aware, but by the end of it, it seemed like
that's a thing. Well, and with the dialogue too, like, it does feel like it's doing the mumblecore thing of like, less there's like a hard script and more like ideas that are trying to be conveyed, and then just sort of letting the actors do that with their own words. Yeah. There are certain parts where there probably was a script, but I feel like there are large chunks where they're just kind of letting them
improv.
Well, in terms of the ideas too, the ideas are, I think, the strong suit of this movie.
Yeah,
I think, you know, the narrative play of things kind of, again, ping-ponging from, you know, different realities is the most interesting part of the movie, and the thing that kind of saves this movie from being just a complete train wreck.
So you've got a bunch of insufferable people in a house together.
Right.
And a comet goes overhead, and it starts making reality all fucky-wucky. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Fucky-wucky.
So the issue, I think the most frustrating thing about this film to me was... It's fairly early on, it's pretty clear that something is wrong with reality.
Right.
Like, almost immediately. All the lights are out except this one up the street. They're seeing... They pretty quickly see alternate versions of themselves as well with the glow sticks. And,
yeah, there's a little bit of interplay with them trying to go to the other house, and then while some people are gone, ooh, there's somebody who came and knocked on our door. Who was that? And it's like, oh, it was us.
And, like, the movie starts out by one of the characters saying, hey, my scientist brother, my exposition brother, told me we shouldn't be going outside. And then it's immediately shown by the people who go outside that they shouldn't be going outside. Like, bad things happen. Not terrible things, but bad.
Not only does the exposition brother say that he shouldn't go outside, it's that he specifically told him that, hey, the comet is passing overhead tonight, so if anything weird starts happening, you need to get in touch with me, like, ASAP. Why? I don't fucking know. The comet is in the atmosphere. It's not just going over this one street. It's presumably going over, where the brother is, too, right? I don't know why it's
it's going across the West Coast.
If anything weird happens tonight, be sure to call me right away. So it's like, okay, even though we all mysteriously don't have any cell phone signal, all of a sudden the lights went out and everything's dark on the street except for this one lit up house up the block. I really need to go get in touch with my brother.
Also, just approaching the house, wouldn't you realize that the lit up house is the same
house? The same house.
Like, wouldn't you immediately recognize the house that you're in? Like, that was a huge plot hole. Like, I don't know. Like, for the most part,
I mean, I'm guessing presumably it's dark, so maybe if they live in a subdivision, like all the houses kind of look the same.
It's not a huge deal, but it's a little insufferable. Yeah. And there's just so many of those little things for me. Like, I don't know if I call this coherence or convenience. There's a lot of things that are just convenience.
I really like how it's set up with one of the characters, our main protagonist, Ballet. ballerina girl.
Blonde.
She talks about how she looked up a comet passing in the 20s over Finland, and how there were reports of people wandering off and not recognizing people they would recognize.
Yeah, a woman said that her husband wasn't her husband because she killed her husband yesterday or something like that. So, ooh.
Yeah. Well, and what turns out is we get that exact kind of thing.
Yeah. They do, looking ahead into the movie, they do sort of do a lot of, like, I would say clever enough, like, sort of foreshadowings to things that happen later in the movie. I don't love the dialogue, but, like, there are enough.
Do you think this part is clever?
No, but please go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, like the part where she's like, "Hey, I heard about a comet one time that did this thing, and then this comet also does that thing." Like, I thought that was like mad heavy-handed.
No, I was going to give another example, but
all right, go for
it. See, I think with that example, like, it isn't overly heavy-handed because it's so early in the movie that, again, it feels like it's ping pong.
We know that something spooky is going to happen.
Something is going to happen, but we don't know what it is until later.
Yeah.
And that becomes more relevant later.
Well, and like, for instance, I remembered what I was going to say. One of the things that they're having a conversation about at the beginning, I don't think this conversation is particularly interesting in the moment, but they're talking about Blonde, how red dress is being like, "Oh, are you still doing the last time I saw you were doing some dance thing?" And she's like, "Oh, that didn't happen because they called in some other dancer who took my spot, and then I didn't want to be the understudy, but then so this other woman came in, became the understudy, and then she ended up taking the lead at the end." And red dress is like, "Oh yeah, so this woman like stole your life. She took your life, and she has the life that you think that you should have." And it's like, that's exactly what Blonde does at the end of the movie.
That's true.
And I do think that is a less heavy-handed setup, because like that, at that point, like everybody's just fucking talking. Like, that kind of detail doesn't like stick, I think.
Well, and I would even argue that you have an inherent challenge making this type of movie on this type of budget, because it's so low budget and dialogue based. You have to explain some of this to the audience
with eight primary characters.
Yeah, you have to explain some of this stuff directly, or people won't understand what's going on. And to do it by doing narratively fitting kind of adjacent things like this, I think it helps explain what's going on a lot better than directly laying stuff out.
The movie does do some like really egregious directly laying stuff out.
Yeah.
I think, for instance, when they're talking about the brother, and they're like, are there any of of his books in the house? And the hippie lady is like, "Oh, I just happened to have one of his books in the back seat of the car that I was going to mail back to him, but I forgot to do it. So let's go get that out of the car." And she comes back in, and they open it up, and it's like, "Oh, it's his lecture notes. And here's a thing about quantum entanglement and decoherence and Schrodinger's cat." And they read that, and we're like, "Whoa, that's exactly what's happening." It's like
convenience.
Yeah, convenience. Like, you figure that out because your professor brother left a book at your house that you happen to have in the backseat of your car that explains exactly what you're experiencing. Like, I think that kind of stuff, I would much rather them err on the side of ambiguity. I would rather...
Well, as soon as they see their doppelgangers across the streets wearing, like, the glow sticks that are a different color, we know what's happening.
Right.
We already do when they're like, "Oh, we saw the house and it looked like this house." Like, before we even see the doppelgangers, we know what's happening. So this on top of it is like, yeah, we fucking get it. And it's just throughout the movie, you continue to see that repeated. And as the characters all one at a time really slowly come to terms with the only reality that's been stated from the beginning of the film. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, this movie definitely does have a case of the characters being a few too many steps behind the audience and, like, realizing what's going on, I think.
Because, like, usually movies like this, they have one character who is smart, and that's usually, like, the lens we view the film through. And they're a little ahead of the curve, and they're able to kind of catch everyone else up. And they kind of have that in, like, the brother guy, but he's also super behind the curve.
And it's like, I don't have a problem with the film foreshadowing things in a way that, like, lets you as the viewer feel smart. Like, hey, I called that. I saw that coming. I feel good about that.
Instead, it just makes them all feel stupid.
There were so many times while we were watching this movie where one of us would say something 10 minutes before it happened in the movie.
Yeah, or longer.
And it's like, with some of that stuff, is like, the characters should be here with me as well.
I have a fundamental question to both of y'all.
Sure.
About the whole structure of the movie. Do you think this movie would even exist if the characters were less insufferable? Because the whole concept of them even leaving the house, you know, kind of hinges on them being insufferable. Because, like, if you had good characters, why would they even leave the house? Why wouldn't they just stay in the house?
So there's a couple things I got to say of this movie. One, the characters could still be insufferable, but there would be more comeuppance. Now, that means more budget, because, like, comeuppance means deaths, kills, whatever. And, like, I can see this movie was clearly working on, like, a very minimal budget and used
that wasn't the type of movie that this
was going for. Okay, so yeah, let's play within those boundaries. You're right. In that case, what you would do, even still, is you need to up the threat a little bit. So a good film that does this is Cube, where they're all in a weird circumstance, you know, in a place that in a foreign, you know, the house has become a foreign environment, you know, like Cube is a foreign environment. And some people are trying to work together to solve the problem, the weird esoteric problem, and some people start to go crazy and cause problems, right? This movie kind of does that, but it's a half measure, and it's poorly explained. Also, in Cube, like, when the people go crazy, like, there's plenty of cause for it.
Also, I don't think anything that happens in this movie hinges upon the likability of the characters. Like, horror as a genre relies on characters making irrational decisions all the time, and it doesn't have anything to do with their likability. I think you're kind of onto something in the regard that, like, spoilers, whatever, when Blonde just, like, leaves later, is walking around to all the different houses and, like, looking in them, and in, like, pretty much every single one, they're all, like, at each other's throats and, like, really fighting and stuff.
You know, you saw even worse outcomes where some were, like, tied up.
Yeah, right. Where they're just, like, it's constant conflict, and then she finds the one where, like, everybody's just, like, vibing and laughing and having a good time and happy, and it's like, I'm gonna steal that life. Like, that's the reality I want to live in. I do think that is harder to pull off, maybe, with likable characters, but I also think that there's plenty of middle ground. Like, Cube is another good example where Cube is full of unlikable characters, but there are still at least a couple where you can find some kind of point of relation you can kind of root for a little bit. It's like, I hate all those other characters, but I'm rooting for you. And this movie lacks even that. If even two of these characters were likable or sympathetic, I think it would be a lot better. And again, like, by the end of the movie, I don't think that the characters were intentionally unlikable. I think they're just badly written characters.
A big
like, they're just
factor.
Annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. A big saving factor, too, can be, like, just the character having, like, any degree of, like, fun charisma. And then it can be a lot less insufferable when they make poor decisions. In this case, it's sort of compounded.
Yeah.
Like, it's both, they are not likable people, and also they make bad decisions, and I think that you should really try to have one or the other. And I think either could have worked for this film just fine. I would have just made them not all like a Southern California like cookie cutter,
Also,
character.
There just needs to be fewer of them.
Yeah.
I think this movie would be so much better if the cast was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, that already
especially
having to go off and take a nap.
Yeah, exactly,
Like,
dude.
absolutely.
One of the characters literally just gets up
Sleeps
and goes and sleeps for like half the movie.
Jealous, honestly.
And it's like I think that you could accomplish the same things that this movie does with way fewer characters, with half the characters, especially in a movie where, like you've made the point, Ben, like it's not about like necessarily bad things happening to the characters. Like there's not like a monster or something. There's not really much real violence in the movie. So it's like you don't need bodies for a body count. So why the fuck are there 8 characters? I thought for sure when this movie started and it just kept introducing characters, I'm like, okay, some people to fucking die off in weird ways, whatever's gonna be happening in this movie. Nope. Not a single character dies in this movie.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, like, ultimately at its core, I understand that some people consider this horror or cosmic horror, but I would say it's more of a sci-fi
thriller for sure.
It very much isn't horror necessarily.
The stakes are too low.
And if you're looking for that, you're probably going to have a worse time than if you're primed for
the stakes are too low.
Something that's more sci-fi mindfuck type of stuff.
Yeah, literally the only like threat of this movie that doesn't even really make itself clear until like the last 20 minutes maybe. The only real threat is, what if you end up stuck back in a reality that is identical to your own but not your own?
Yeah, it reminds me of...
It's like, that's kind of existentially, like, sort of, like...
It's a cool idea.
It reminds me a little bit of... There was a Twilight Zone episode, The Monsters on Maple Street?
Ooh, I don't know.
Where it has something similar, because, like, it's the idea that, you're in a similar reality to yours where you don't belong. Mm-hmm.
And
but everything is familiar.
Yeah, everything's familiar, but just slightly different.
Everyone has a pig nose except for you, Yeah.
Yeah, shit. I mean, that's kind of what the Twilight Zone as a series is built around, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of familiar, but not.
Really?
And it's like tons of like of movies have been hinged on that premise. I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Us?
But us.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, like, I don't feel like this movie does a great job with the sort of inherent uncanniness of doppelgangers. Like, it's not really trying to, because a lot of the quote-unquote drama hinges on discovering that throughout the course of this movie, enough basically anytime somebody goes outside, they end up in another reality.
And at some point, everyone does.
At first, for a good chunk of the movie, they think there's just the 2 realities. There's them and the other. They're the blue team, and then there's the red team, because the color of their glow sticks. And then it's like, we start to realize, whoa, no, actually, there's way more, and there's potentially infinite realities, and they have all of these, I think I'll say, varying degrees of clever ways of figuring that stuff out, and some of that is interesting, but again, like, there's not, it starts to get at something existential there, where it's like, what if I want to make sure I end up back in my own reality. I don't want to end up in a reality where things are potentially different. I don't know.
It's a circumstance which again, this is cool. Like, if you zoom all the way out, you look at it just the core premise of the film. Yeah, conceptual level. It's dope.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, and I think there's a lot you can do with it. I think it's just also when those things happen, when they're paced out compared to where we already are as an audience, that's where a lot of these problems start to come up. But no, I mean, at a certain point, yeah, they all, through various means, have figured out, we all saw something different in that box when the Schrodinger's box was opened.
Yeah.
Right.
They have a literal Schrodinger's box.
Yeah, like, and they talk about like Schrodinger's box beforehand too. It's a little heavy-handed. Like, the idea's okay though. Like, where they at one point they go out, they come back with the box, and we realize, oh, that was a different group that actually came back with the box originally anyway. So they put something different in the box, and then later on she comes across a house where everyone sees something different in the box. So the idea is we have Schrodinger's cat where the cat, you don't know if the cat is alive or dead, and then quantum theory comes in. It's
simultaneously.
Both. It can't be quantized, right? You cannot quantify whether or not the cat is dead or alive. So we have detangled quantum. Like, that's where we are in the reality. Dope. I'm here. That's awesome. How do we solve this problem, though? Oh, I don't know. You just don't go outside and do anything. So to solve, like, all you have to do to solve the movie is to just do nothing, right?
Just stay in the house until the comet passes. Yeah. And that doesn't being the ultimate lesson, because the one reality that she finds where they're all happy and vibing and not at each other's throats is the one where they all fucking decided to take the hippies' ketamine and just fucking vibe in the living room and not leave the house. And, So it's like...
Well, I will say, to the film's credit, like, once they explain the entanglement stuff and like not leaving the house, they've already left the house multiple times.
Yes.
It's too late to be like, oh, hey, let's just
some people have, but like,
they leave the house literally immediately.
Yeah, but like, even after they explain that, people keep trying to leave the house and stuff.
Yeah.
And I did find that pretty insufferable. Because their motive wasn't very good to leave the house either.
Everybody has their own, motives. The fucking, the vest guy, the actor, he keeps thinking about what the other him is scheming.
This, to me, is the most insufferable.
And he's like, he keeps, like, trying to think of ways to fucking, like, fuck with the other him, because there's got to be a winner, right? When in reality, it's like, no, you don't want to interact at all.
Well,
like,
he takes the Schrodinger's cat thing
literally, yeah.
In that, like,
if the cat is both alive and one is alive and one is dead. So it's like, he's determined, I'm going to be the one alive. And he even talks about, well, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to kill him. And he's like, and they're like, no, why would you do that? He's like, well, because the other me over there, he might be drinking. So what if he comes over here and kills us?
Yeah. It's like, the drinky version of me is homicidal. I was like, I guess. It's not enough. That's not enough reason for, like, your character to fucking break,
Yeah,
like, they gotta build that up a little bit. They have to, like, push him, do something to push him over the edge. He just kind of goes, "Oh well, that one might be drinking, so he could be an axe murderer."
And the thing is, too, is like he never does really break. Like I did think that they were setting that up. It's like, he's gonna start getting paranoid and drinking, and he's gonna snap, or an alternate version of him is gonna. Well,
we do get that great scene where.
Great.
Secondary Mike runs in and just beats the crap out of
and then
Mike
runs
in the house.
And then runs back out.
It's almost funny how pathetic it is.
Yeah, it's so brief. It's like he just runs into the house, punches himself a few times, and then runs back out. It's like,
I love
that was
that
it.
scene though, because I imagine that to be one of the ones that decides that, I'm just gonna kill all of them. Yeah. And he runs over there, and he's too pathetic to actually do anything, and he just...
I think that's kind of funny, and I think that would be a fun way to... Like, that's something that you do sort of, like, early on, and then later on, for more of, like, a climactic moment, you have an even more deranged version come over with, like, a fucking axe or something.
That's what this movie should have been.
There's gotta be, like...
you
there's gotta be some stakes, man.
You follow through on that one cool idea, right? Clearly, because reality is fucking destabilized, and there's there's an unthinkable amount of us out there in the darkness that could be fucking doing anything from any iteration of that reality. There's going to be a few evil ones. There's going to be a few where it's like, they're from the mass murderer reality.
That exact character even says that exactly, and I called it right before he did it. It was like, you said if they're the person out there, the others out there might be the dark versions. What if we're the dark versions?
That was so insufferable. It was so funny when you said it right before he
literally right before he said it.
Yeah, amazing. And but then like the guy just kind of comes in, beats on the other guy, and runs out.
And
like,
runs out. Yeah,
and that's all we get of that. Like if you're gonna set up that, like again, little payoff when she's outside and she's looking through different realities. Couldn't it have been one where like blood sprays up on the window?
Well, we
like
get one where they're tied up.
Yeah, but that's not.
But again,
enough.
like
that's not. There's no action in that.
Give me a little bit. Yeah,
that's Rocky and Bullwinkle shit. That's baby shit. They tied them up. Like, give me something real.
Give me a little more like real stakes. Because what?
Yeah.
Instead of a deranged Mike coming over with an axe later and having a fucking Shining moment through the door.
Mike. It's one of the characters who looked like not. It's nap time glasses girl, right? Like she's the one with the axe because
it's Finnish Mike. Yeah. It's Mike, but he's Finnish.
That's funny.
See, the thing that I like though with this is it feels like there's elements that are more constant between realities.
Sure.
Than other things that are more variable.
Yeah.
Like for example, the note. We see the note dozens of times because all these different varied versions leave the note.
They're all
and that's more
different.
Of a constant. Well, no, they're written the exact same.
Yeah, they're all identical.
Well, no, I mean the realities. Like because there's a constant, they're slightly different. They're not the realities. It's red lights.
No, they never go as far as making any of them dramatically. Yeah, it's not everything everywhere all at once.
Yes,
right. There's never a reality where they have hot dogs for fingers.
Yeah. What I almost like about having none of the mics that are in this movie like evil. Like, the evilest we get is one that runs up and punches, because at its core, his character is pathetic.
I agree. I mean, you're not wrong.
It's not quantum.
It's just not that interesting.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
No,
like, I don't
think it's quantum. It's just the more variable outcomes are further away.
Yeah.
From this reality.
And I'm not saying that I want like a version of Mike to come over with like a goatee and like frosted tips like Guy Fieri and like glowing red eyes with like a fucking sword or something. Like, I'm not saying like go that far, but I think something that's still like a more dramatic end of the spectrum that's still like believable. Like he doesn't have to be evil, but like make him like get shit-faced drunk, like plastered, and like that, and he comes over with like an axe or like a butcher knife or something, and is sort of like clumsily trying to like, break the door down and get in. Like at least then there's like some kind of like little excitement to like pull me in a little bit more, because what they do for that climactic scene at the end instead is a version of Mike comes over and leaves a blackmail note for himself. It's like, hey, don't do such and such, or I'll tell Beard that we fucked his wife 12 years ago. And it's like, and then that confrontation, that fight is like the climax. Is like, you fucked my wife 12 years ago. How many people? Did all of you know? Did all of you know that he fucked my wife?
We all fucked your wife.
Well, I did think that actually was kind of a funny line. As Mike is like, he's like, man, that in every reality, I fucked your bitch. He doesn't say it like that.
One other reality, there happened to coincide.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's truly quantum, there's both infinite realities where he did fuck his bitch and infinite realities where he didn't fuck his bitch. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
But these characters are too stupid.
But it's like that fight is sort of like the breaking point, and that's when Blonde is like, no, I'm going to go wander around in the dark for a couple of minutes while a smooth trip-hop song plays, and I look in the windows of all these different realities and see how we all fucking hate each other and we're all fighting. But now that reality, that looks like a nice one. My boyfriend actually likes me. So I'm gonna steal that bitch's life, just like that other ballerina stole my life.
I do like how they kind of build to that moment of her getting kind of fed up with the reality she is in.
Yeah, sure.
Because she goes out to the car and she, out of anxiety, gets like a ring that was given to her by her boyfriend.
That he won her at like a fair or something. Yeah, like a cheap little...
And she comes out and he's out there and they talk, and she says she went to grab the ring because, you know, it reminded her of good times, and he reminisces about these good times.
There's been some tension because Red Dress is his ex-girlfriend, and she's sort of trying to horn in on the action a little bit.
Yeah, and then
Blonde is very jealous.
Something that happened, and he doesn't recognize it. And then there's a lot of tension because it's clear that he's from a different reality than her.
I did kind of like that moment where she sort of like realizes and is sort of like slowly backing away from him. Because they have like a moment where they like connect and hug. It's like, we're okay, right? And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't we be okay? Like, yeah, everything's, you know, I don't know what that what Red Dress bitch has on her mind, but we're rock solid, baby.
See, I do kind of like that setting up her kind of being a tourist for other realities.
Yeah.
Because it introduces that, like, things are better elsewhere if, you know, I look for them.
Better realities are possible.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, I do think that sets that up well. It makes her decision to like try to invade that other reality at the very end. Like it makes it make more sense because she's like had a taste of the ideal or an ideal. Because then she goes back into the house and her boyfriend, or well, it turned out to be just a different shitty version of him because all the quantum.
See, I really like that concept too, and I wish they would have played with that with more characters. Because the idea of, like, all these different characters, like, traveling to try to find the best reality for themselves.
That's a more interesting movie. And again, I think you have space to do that if your cast is, like, 4 characters instead of 8.
Yeah, more exploration on the iterations of those smaller sets of characters.
More fleshed out characters,
such a large cast where we already don't know them well enough as an audience to feel much when they are.
And let us see both sides of that. Like, let us see realities that are better, but also realities that are worse. You know, like that's an opportunity for like some good tension and like horror and spooky stuff. You know, I hate to like boil it down to this, but what this movie is fucking missing is it's missing a monster. And I don't mean like literally a monster, but like, I don't know, like I feel like the comet is almost that. It's almost there, yeah. Like the dark space in like the middle that they point out, that they realize like when you pass through that's when you're passing into like a different reality or whatever. It's like I feel like there's hints at that. You mentioned the Endless while we were watching this, because like it is kind of similar. There's a lot of similar themes. And it's like
much better movie.
Yeah, well, and the Endless has a monster. I don't like the reveal of the monster at the end. No. We talked about that on our episode, but
at least
like,
there's something like there's some action.
You know,
there
the monster can even of this movie could even be just dread of being in the wrong reality.
Yeah,
you know, and
introduce
that things aren't right.
Introduce that possibility sooner.
And I feel like that's almost what they're trying to get at, of the characters feeling off because they don't feel like they're in the right reality. But they don't do it quite well enough. Like it doesn't feel like there's enough of a sense of dread throughout the movie that we're like, oh, this isn't right. This is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it should make the audience feel more uncomfortable.
I think with just a little bit more zhuzh in the cinematography and the score, you know, like the art direction of this movie, we could have gotten that more too, you know, like bringing out that tension.
I don't know.
That feeling between the characters. And like slowed things down a little bit.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I feel like this, but like looking at this as like a sort of mumblecore film, like I feel like you gotta distance yourself from the aesthetic to a certain degree because that's not the point of movies like this. I'm not saying that this kind of movie doesn't call for something like that, but I don't know, man. that fucking the some of the outside stuff they were shooting, they had a very obvious like A camera and B camera. The B camera just had like a much slower lens, and they just had to crank the ISO way fucking up. So it's just like one shot to the next is like decent, and then just like grainy. I do think that was pretty distracting. Yeah. I will say too, visual aesthetic is one thing, but audio, man. Mm-hmm. No matter how low budget you're trying to go and like how little you care about the aesthetic, gotta have fucking cleanly recorded audio. I feel like a lot of audio in this movie fucking sucks.
You might say it's incoherent.
We had to turn the subtitles.
So the movie so there's a thematic thing. Like the way that happened was we started up the film. She's in the car on the phone with her fiance or whatever, and she says some words that are coherent, and then he starts coming in. He starts saying some words, and immediately like we all stopped. And we're like struggling to hear it. And we're like, oh, we got to put on subtitles. This is like not coming through. And then right after we put on subtitles, her character says, "Hey, I can't really hear what you're saying." It's like, oh, coherence. I get it. Like, that's the theme. But he did talk for a good while. Like, long enough for us to, like, stop and be like, all right, this is a Well, I feel like they could have, like, degraded a little bit faster, or it would even, like, they could have played the hand a little bit
way
more.
To play into the theme.
Well, it would have worked if, like,
feel like it's intentional.
If we could have heard him clearly at first, and then the signal got worse, then it would have worked. I think it's a neat idea, and you can, and for much shorter of a span of time. Not where the film is expecting us to think we can hear him.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, the idea is... I like that idea. Like, it's kind of cool on paper. Just
My problem is that most of the movie didn't sound like they were really, like, miking any of the actors or even, like, booming them. Like, there's some shit that just straight up sounds that it's, like, like, the on-camera mic. Like, maybe they put a shotgun mic on it or something. But a lot of the other stuff, too, just sounds like there's, like, a room mic. Mm-hmm. Because, like, they're all mixed differently. There's, like, a kind of, like, general echo.
Yeah, the audio quality
is not...
It definitely bounces around throughout the movie, too. Like, there are scenes where it's very clear.
Yeah.
And others where you can't read what's going on as well, and it's more echoey.
Yeah.
And tinny.
It just
even.
Yeah, it just the sound quality just sounds bad. Like, I don't care if you don't want to if you just want to light your film with just like the lights you have in the room and go full mumblecore that way, but like get good audio. Because bad audio is way more distracting than anything else in a movie.
Well, in mumblecore, it's bad too because you're already dealing with a lot of overlapping dialogue where, like, at its core, it's meant to not, be completely coherent 100% anyways.
Right.
So, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a bad technical error.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, too, about, like, I'm sure this movie was just, like, the tiniest of budgets, but it's like, the dude who made it has obviously worked in the industry, right? So, you'd think he could, like, he'd at least know how to, like, fucking properly record sound for a scene. I don't know.
You ready to rate?
Yeah, let's rate.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this. Who wants to go first?
We had a funny conversation before we started recording about what you would do if you came across your own doppelganger. I have a pretty definitive answer. Like I would figure it out. I'd sit down and I'd be like, okay, we gotta split some of these tasks up in our life, and we'll figure it out. Like we'll get there.
Yeah, you use
what
it
if the other you doesn't want to play along like that?
If it is exactly me, then it would. I have confidence in that because I know myself. Like we'd sit down, we figured.
But when is the doppelganger ever exactly you?
Well, yeah, then there'd be a problem. Sure, but
isn't that sort of the whole point? It's like almost you, but not quite.
Yeah, but it depends on how not quite.
Yeah.
Is it murderous? Well, then, no. But, like, if it's just, like...
What if it's exactly you,
but
and the only difference is it really is into My Little Pony?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like it's willing to share the room, share the apartment, and to do double the work and stuff, all that stuff you're saying.
At least until we can go off in our own separate ways. Yeah.
But he's got some really weird fetishes.
Yeah, well,
like that's the kind of thing. It's like weird, you don't know because that's the type of difference that reveals itself later. Me, I'm just not associating. I'm gonna tell my doppelganger to turn his ass around and go back where he came from. Not interested.
Your doppelganger says, "I can't. The comet's passed."
Shit.
What do? Yeah.
Maybe I'm one of the ones who tries to kill him, or maybe he kills me. I don't know.
So you would fuck up the whole comet party.
See, if you turn your doppelganger away,
that's the problem.
They could commit crimes in your name.
Yeah,
and you'd be on the hook for it.
Now you need to establish trust with your
doppelganger. There's literally a whole
the
Supernatural episode about that.
Yeah, you got it. I'm telling you guys, like, this is a PSA. You have to establish trust with your doppelganger, even if they're into some weird shit. You gotta like fucking get through that and past it.
But what if he's
help yourself grow as a person?
But what if he's not trustworthy? And he doesn't trust me either.
We'll figure it out. You have to at least try.
I don't know, man.
You got to at least try to sit down. Like,
I don't know. I think I just turned him away.
Yeah.
If he shows up at my door, I'm the one inside, so he has to leave.
What if both of you are really into someone, and the other person likes the other you more?
Plenty of fish in the sea. Yeah, good for them. There's more people out there. Figure it out. You're single? Go mingle.
I think you're brushing that kind of thing off way too easily.
Nah. Just try.
I think you would find it much harder to make this kind of thing work than you believe.
I said it would be easy, okay?
I think you'd find it much harder than you're making it out to be.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be it wouldn't come with challenges. But you have to put in the effort. Otherwise, you're just going to get murdered by your doppelganger. And that's no good. You can't go into a doppelganger scenario with murderous intent. You got to put out the good vibes and receive the good vibes.
Okay.
That's
note to self: if you ever find a doppelganger of Cleve, send him to Cleve's house.
Well, since doppelgangers aren't real, I'm not
There's
super worried.
There's people that look very
that.
similar.
Yeah, but there's 8 billion people on the planet.
Right, but that's not an actual doppelganger. It's a phrase. It's a turn of speech. Like a literal doppelganger that is like a perfect copy of you is.
Well, that's the point.
Might be out there.
It doesn't exist.
Exactly. We're not talking about perfect doppelgangers. Like the different reality versions of you aren't perfect copies of you.
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing.
That's what I was saying at the beginning. Like, we gotta specify from the top. And like, if it is a perfect one, yeah, dude.
But it's never a perfect one.
Yeah, that's
the whole point.
Try. And then if not, you gotta try. You gotta put in the effort, but it's not easy.
That's
why I'm gonna invite everyone that even looks slightly like you to your house to be like, oh hey, I'm Cleveland Mosher.
All right, they're not.
It's the uncanniness,
which I get. So I don't really see the point. But anyway, 2.5. It's fine.
Yeah. 3. It's got some interesting ideas. I didn't hate it. I hated the characters, but I didn't hate the movie. I think that there are lots of nuggets of a good movie in there. So 3.
Yeah, I mentioned early on that the first time I watched it, I gave it a 3. And I was going to say it's higher, but after talking about it, I think it's about the same. It's a 3.
We talked you back down.
Yeah. It's a 3. It's good. Conceptually, it's very cool.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that will give Coherence an average of 2.8 out of 5. And you know what I will say is I appreciate that Zach picked this movie for us to talk about. Yeah. And I appreciate, even though it's a very difficult movie to talk about coherently, I appreciate Zach's picks because everything he's picked, even if we haven't loved it, has been something that we never would have watched for the podcast otherwise, and it's always given us really good conversation. So Zach, keep picking fucking weird movies that we might or might not like. I do really appreciate it.
Sorry.
It's nice to have some stuff that is outside of our own preferences, I think. What the fuck is next week? We talked about it before. Oh, Scream 6.
Yes.
Scream 6 is next week.
Scream in the Big Apple,
yeah,
baby.
it's in New York, baby.
Much like the last
I'm screaming here.
Much like the last
Will I make that joke again next week? Probably.
Will be, almost certainly. I hope you do. But yeah, the last Scream had a terrible trailer. That didn't have us that excited and ended up being great.
The movie turned out to be great.
This one had a terrible trailer. Who knows?
The same people making the movie.
Okay, I'm gonna
We
call
don't
my
know.
shot now.
Yeah, it's quantum.
Maybe it's bad and good at the same time.
It was revealed that Samara Weaving is in this. I think she's gonna be the first kill.
She's great.
She's gonna be the
hope
first
not. I hope
kill,
that she's-
killed immediately.
See, it's interesting that you say that because I think your prediction at the beginning of the year is that she's the killer. So
That's my preference.
You've reversed.
The fact that she's
really
not
charismatic.
shown in
any
any
of the
trailers or
trailers?
anything leads me to believe she's probably killed first.
Damn.
Or she could be the killer. She could be the one under the mask, and that's why we don't see her.
Yeah, could be a fake out.
Yeah, who knows? Well, tune back next week to find out. Do we have results for Cocaine Bear?
Oh shit! Yes, we do. Okay, for Cocaine Bear, I predicted it would get a Rotten Tomato score of 40. Tisu predicted 58, and Clevey predicted 81. It's currently sitting at 69.
Oh,
Nice.
nice. Wait, who's that? Who puts that? Who's that closer to, Cleaver or me? Because I said
You by one.
by one. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I couldn't do math for a second.
That's okay.
Hold
on.
Let me pull.
You could do math at the time when you made that prediction, and that's all that matters.
I do think it's funny that it ended up at 69 because the couple of days leading up to opening weekend, all the pre-screeners for a couple days on Rotten Tomatoes, it had 100%. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, Cocaine Bear is gonna be amazing!" It's like, come on, man. It's based off of like three people who liked the movie. You know?
Ooh, okay. So, opening weekend, I predicted 8.5 mil. TC predicted 15 mil. And Clevey predicted 4 mil.
I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong.
It had an opening weekend of 23.2 million.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That movie can make as much money as it wants, in my opinion.
Even I was low. Wow.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yay.
Yeah.
Horror movies making money. Let's go.
Yeah, so, do you
Except for
remember
me.
collective rating?
It's okay.
I think it was 3.5.
It was like 3.8,
No idea.
I think.
Yeah. Because Cleve and Goomba Sam gave it a 4.
Yeah.
So, I predicted 3.3. TC predicted 3. Clevey predicted 4.
There you go.
It's
Cleve.
Cleve. Yep. See, taglines.
Nice.
The bear does so much snow you'd think it was a polar bear.
Who's that?
Me.
Okay.
It's got that much
They
white.
They
Yeah.
make that joke in the movie?
No, but they should have.
They should have.
TC said probably bad, but hopefully in a fun way. Rip Ray Liotta. Cleve, you said looks like a good gimmick movie.
Yeah.
It was to me.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because another film that has a bear in it that's coming out or is out now is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and that looks like a bad gimmick movie.
Yeah.
So at least this one, it's a gimmick. It's Cocaine Bear, but you know, at least it's fun and
Yeah.
you know, it knows what it is.
Cocaine Bear was fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine with its existence. Anyway, let's do a sponsor.
Yeah, didn't we already do the sponsor? Oh shit! Another Cleveland just ran in and took the sponsor.
Oh my
can
god.
From the shelf because it's a shelf. Not a can.
You better work together with him.
Yeah, well, he already ran out. I don't know what's going on there. But I would love to. Maybe it's the evil doppelganger. You know, it's from the hell dimension doppelganger.
What if you're the evil one?
God, I hope so.
Cleve, would you fuck your doppelganger?
Depends on the doppelganger.
Fair enough.
You know, how evil, how whatever, how hot. Is it me from the super hot dimension?
That's some Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania type shit.
Tease, there's a knock on your door. It's you, but it's from the big anime titty dimension.
Oh man.
What do you do?
Gotta kill that dude. Gotta kill that
It's an abomination, it must die. Yeah, that's good. All right.
I'd kill the hot one if it showed up too.
Okay. Oh wait, another Cleveland has appeared. It's from the shrimp dimension though. He smells terrible. He's giving me the canister back. Is it the same canister from the sponsor shelf in our dimension, or is it an entirely different one? What Matisse or sponsor shelf actually wrote this sponsor? Who knows? Let's read it and find out. This one says, okay, this episode was brought to you by the DVD menu of a movie you fell asleep watching at your friend's house in middle school. Hopefully that transports you back to a time that we've all had in our lives. And if you haven't experienced that time, maybe you woke up in the wrong dimension.
Y'all got any particular memories of DVD menus? Waking up on a friend's couch with a DVD menu rolling?
A million. I got a million of them.
Probably like The Water Boy.
I think Superbad was one for me.
Yeah.
Watch that with my friends.
Yeah, all our buddies in high school got together one time. We all watched, it's the same guy who did Pie. It's, what is it? The Requiem for a Dream, and we all got really bummed out and passed out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what a bummer way to end the night.
Yeah, and then another time it was the original Silent Hill movie. And
all right, well, that's it. If you like the show, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. It will help us get in more people's ears. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Shout out to our honorary pod boys, Sam Simon and Zach Confer. And an extra special shout out to the newest honorary pod boy who joined the Patreon.
Yeah.
Meryl is the newest added to the ranks of the pod boys.
Welcome to the fold.
Welcome. We welcome you and we appreciate your support. And you've already got your first film on the list for the next, what is it called? Patreon pick. Mm-hmm. This movie has quantum spaghettified my brain.
Damn, I'll have what you're having.
Yeah, Twitter, Pod People Pod, Letterboxd, you know all the things. I'm on Twitter at Some Spooky Snake and streaming on Twitch at Some Spooky Snake. I'm almost done with Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, you got close. I got a decent amount of
Hell yeah.
I got pretty close. I think I'm thinking towards the end. So, yeah.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
And I work at DreadXP these days. Have it for a minute. Go check out all the cool games over there. Go wishlist Hand of Doom. Go get hyped for My Friendly Neighborhood coming soon. I don't know if we've announced specifically soon when. I don't want to.
I did see on Twitter that it said soon.
It did. It is soon. I do think I know how soon, but I can't say how soon.
Can't say, but rest assured,
get hype. It's
soon.
Yeah. Go wishlist that instead of fucking Garden of Band 3 or whatever the fuck that thing is that came out recently. Don't worry about it.
Are you starting street beef with another indie?
What is Garden of Band 3?
It's a joke. No, it's fine. I don't have any hate towards it, but
what's happening?
Just cut that whole bit, or leave it in. Make me look like an idiot. I guess I am one. It doesn't matter. I'm tired.
That was other Cleave that said that.
Yeah, that was ran in and said that was
the evil Cleave who came in.
Much like Tease, my brain is spaghetti. I'm tired.
We've been quantumifying, and the ketamine is kicking in.
We have quantum mania. I hope not. I don't want that.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I feel like that image of weird CG MODOK that's going around, that's me right now.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. K-hole mania.
K-hole mania.
Everything's alright. Why'd I get this huge satellite? Yeah, just to use 3 websites a little in the morning. morning, a little in the evening. Yeah, I might call the mental health hotline just to ask for a good time. It might appear like I'm driving straight for the moon.